Welcome to Home Care Hot Seats with Kelly and Nicole, the exclusive podcast for home care owners by home care owners. I'm Kelly.
And I'm Nicole, two home care owners who live and breathe the challenges and triumphs of the industry every day. Join us as we dive into the latest happenings, innovative strategies, and the raw truth of balancing business with everyday life.
Whether you're a seasoned owner, a new entrepreneur, or just curious about the world of home care, you're in the right place. Welcome to Home Care Hot Seats, Nicole. This will be our very first episode with a guest. How are you feeling about that?
I am super stoked because I am fully aware of the value that this first guest brings to not only my agency because I utilize her services, but also to the many other home care agency owners that utilize her services. And for those
Same.
that don't, they're going to be
Where
believers
you been?
of this podcast. Yeah, where you been? Get on board.
Yeah, that is 100% our goals. So, our first guest to the show is the fantastic Kat Villanueva. Kat, we are so excited to have you with us today. For those who do not know you, because Nicole and I very much know you, but for those who do not, Kat is such an amazing resource to our home care community. And one of her latest endeavors is all the rage right now in home care. And so we had to have her on. We needed to go ahead and talk about it. We are getting questions after questions after questions, and it's all about virtual assistants. So, Kat, tell us a little bit about yourself. We want to know the whole Kat. We want to know the whole person. Tell us about personal and professional.
Okay, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me here today. I appreciate that. So, first, I'm a mom. I have three boys, kindergarten, second grade, and fourth grade. So, my life has been a chaos, or it's still a chaos every day. Married. My husband's a,
Understatement of the year. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm married. My husband is a pediatric surgeon at Children's National Medical Center in Washington, D.C. I was born and raised in the Philippines, but I migrated to the US 20 years ago. So I've been here a while. I worked as a neurosurgical ICU nurse for about 8 years. And then at USC, actually, in Los Angeles, California. And then moved to the East Coast in 2013, did another 5 years in the hospital before starting my home care agency in 2008. So it's sort of like my life in a, you know, my
Yeah.
yeah.
So, what made you go to home care?
So there's a lot of things that was going on in my life at that time. I started having kids, and it was so difficult to manage kids in a 9 to 5, like impossible. So I thought about, what I wanted to do in life. And I really looked back at the things that had happened in my personal life before I became a nurse. And that was with my grandmother who had a stroke when I was in nursing school. And it was my mom who solely took care of her. And so it was really, there's not a concept of home care in the Philippines, unfortunately. So it's your loved one who's forced to take care, of you if something happens. There's no nursing homes as well. So you
Wow.
just have to be at home and someone has to take care of you. So at that time, it was really all the kids, like all of us were out in college, and then it was my mom solely taking care of my grandmother, and that aged her a lot. And so when I was thinking of the best, like thinking of switching careers and doing something else and maybe possibly a business, I thought that that was something that has always stayed in the back of my mind, and, and I started just researching and, watching a lot of videos on YouTube about home care. And so that's how I started.
So then, Kat, walk us through a little bit of that journey. So you're researching, you're starting a home care. At what point did you kind of decide to branch out and kind of become the serial entrepreneur that we know Kat to be?
Well, that's how I hope that I would be. So that's my dream, actually. So basically, I had my home care agency at that time. And then in 2021, no, 2020 was when I first started working with virtual assistant. And so, wait, that was the question. Sorry.
Yes.
Trying to go
Yep.
into that. Okay. Okay, let me go back. So I had my home care agency, and around 2020, when we were in the middle of pandemic, that's when I started working with virtual assistants. And I'm very familiar with virtual assistants because actually before I came to the US, I was a VA. I was a virtual assistant working for a medical transcription company. So it wasn't a foreign concept to me, and I know exactly how it's gonna work and how it's gonna work. So I did that, and for about a year I kept telling myself, this is like a secret weapon. Like nobody else, or it's not like nobody else, but very few people actually, are utilizing this. And for the longest time I kept to myself until I was like, no, this has to be like, this is so super helpful because at the end of that year, when I looked at my admin cost, it dropped from 16% to 9%.
Wow.
Wow.
No, it was a huge drop. And I was utilizing a hybrid model. So in 2021, I thought, you know what? This could be a business, right? And what's funny is that I never thought of myself as a business person, an entrepreneur. Like I always say, I've never sold a candy in my life. It was not part of my dream ever become a business owner. Never. I thought I would be like a like in the hospital administration. Maybe I thought myself I wanted to be the CNO, or chief nursing officer of a
Yeah.
hospital. Never a business owner. So that was kind of like a surprise for me that I'm in this place now where I'm able to run two thriving businesses.
Yeah. So, you know, you said that for a while you kept the VA thing kind of to yourself. Okay. But now you mentioned that you were a VA before coming to the US. And in what year was that?
Oh, goodness. You're revealing my age. 2002.
Okay. So, well, what I'm getting at here is that the concept of virtual assistants have been around
For a long
for
time.
years, for so long. And why do you think that it has taken so long for home care to grab this concept of virtual assistants?
That's a very interesting question. I think it's just people were scared. People were scared to utilize. What's funny is that hospitals, big healthcare, like physician practices, use
Yeah,
outsource everything to India.
right.
So I've been doing medical transcription for hospital medical records since late 90s. That was my first, my first job and working in the outsourcing business. And so for home care agencies, I'm really not sure. I think it's just people are afraid. And and it just so happened that, I'm a home care agency owner. I have experience as a VA, and I'm here locally in the US now. So I thought I
Mhm.
would pick bridge between those that are sort of dabbling and not too sure yet, knowing that I'm personally here in the US, and they can see me and they could really talk to me and not someone offshore that,
Mhm.
they don't actually see or meet at all.
And I think some of
Yeah.
it too, or at least what I've experienced and in talking with other agency owners, and even when we started kind of considering the idea of bringing on a virtual assistant, my contract providers really had a hard time with it. And I remember having conversations with a couple of them. And really, what it boiled down to is they really just didn't understand HIPAA. There was a huge concern for a HIPAA breach. And well, you're going to be releasing this information to people who aren't authorized to see it, and blah, 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 blah. I had probably a half dozen meetings with two different contract providers that we contract with because they were really apprehensive about us utilizing a virtual assistant. And I think some of it was not realizing that it's not like I have gone to the Philippines and I'm just hiring this random individual off of the street. Like
Right.
it's a business service. It's really no different than utilizing a secondary billing agency to, they have to access this information. And once I explained to them, like, this is a business, like, I have a business associate agreement that we signed that protects this information. Like, it's a business connecting with any other business that we partner with in our agencies. And so what I experienced with those contract providers and our some of the other home care agency owners is they're really nervous because I think they don't understand the HIPAA piece. I think there's this big misconception on that they can't share that information with another agency that they're in business with. That has been
Hmm.
not my personal, like, that was never my concern. I was like, take my money, be my VA. But I think other people, when we asked a question in the Facebook group, our home care ops, like, what stops you from utilizing a virtual assistant? That was one of the things I think that came up for people. And I don't think it's so much of an issue anymore. But I know when I started, that was an issue that people kept coming back to. And it was something that just doesn't really pertain to what we're doing. Have you seen other agency owners have that concern, Kat, when they're looking at utilizing your VAs for home care services?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a very valid question. And it all boils down to really letting them know that even like for Olivia, all of our virtual assistants are HIPAA trained and certified. So, and in fact, to be honest with you, to be totally transparent, my own team here in the Philippines, I don't even know if they're HIPAA certified. Like when I first started with them, I just started getting them certified because I had all of Olivia get certified. So there's definitely a big focus on HIPAA just because they're outside of the US. But when we're really thinking about our local staff here, do they even sign or are they really HIPAA trained?
Right.
Right? I
That's
mean,
so true.
that I think no, because I mean that was my practice. So that's one concept about, like the confidentiality. The second thing that most people don't know is that Philippines is a major hub in Asia for a lot of healthcare and non-healthcare businesses. In fact, if you call T-Mobile, it's outsourced to the Philippines. They
Mhm.
ask your credit card information and you give it to them.
Mhm.
Right.
Know that, right? Healthcare. They have your Medicare number, your insurance, your social security. They're outsourced in the Philippines.
Mhm.
So I think it's just really kind of being more informed about how, the businesses evolve.
Yeah.
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 So
Yeah.
going
So
into
we did
a
ask the
oh,
question.
we just have so many questions, Kat. We want everybody to hear everything.
I know. We're like, hmm. No, but I was going to say, so we did ask the question in the group, why are you hesitant about taking on a virtual assistant? So I want to speak like directly to those fears because I do think that we think this is a different entity than any other admin staff that we have. And it's really not.
Mm-mm.
So one of the things that came up is just, I don't know what they can do. So, I mean, speak directly to, some of the barriers, Kat, that you have seen come from home care owners, because I think that that will make a huge difference for people to start hearing.
So in terms of I don't know what they can do, there's really so much. And that's why we actually conduct with Olivia, we conduct an exploration meeting, and that's where we're able to sort of explain all the wonderful tasks that they could do for your agency, right? But to keep it really short, it's they're very tech savvy, right? They're
Mhm.
very tech savvy. And when you're looking at delegating things to a virtual assistant, you're gonna look at what are things that can be done in, behind like using a computer and using the phone. Because those are two things. Those are their two major tools. And there's so many repetitive and time consuming tasks that owners do. I mean, I
Yes.
still do,
Yes.
and our staff. So if you look at all the tasks that they do on a daily basis, and instead of using your top people, your top paying people, right? If you pay, I don't know, someone in your office the top dollars, and they're behind a computer doing these things, those things can be delegated and use your top people to help you grow your business, be out there in the community.
Hmm.
so that we could grow the business, help you grow the business.
Yeah, you said once in a mastermind meeting that we're in that you see so many owners doing $10 an hour tasks, and that really resonated with me
Yeah, that was
because we
such a
do.
huge takeaway point for me in that meeting. I was like,
Yeah.
so many $10 tasks I'm doing.
And I think that's where you start to kind of look at what are you doing? Is that really your zone of genius? Is that really even going to bring you in the revenue? And you can start to see, what you can delegate off to a virtual assistant. I know too, though, between Nicole and I and some other people, you're talking about they can do scheduling, they can do
Mhm.
recruiting, they can do HR. I mean, there's not a whole lot that our administrative staff in the office needs to be client facing for that we can't outsource that to a virtual assistant. Am I right about that, Kat?
Absolutely. So, in fact, I'm going to let you know that for my home care agency, I've not utilized a local person for recruitment except for the onboarding, like because we do physical onboarding.
Yeah.
But my recruiter is full time VA. It's kind of like hard for me to say VA because like virtual assistant is really like not an assistant, but they're like a virtual recruiter, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we changed
virtual
our
assistant.
recruiters or our VA's name. We stopped calling her a virtual assistant and started calling her the executive scheduler and the executive recruiter just because it felt like it gave more weight to what they were doing. And then like Kelly and I know you know this, but for the listeners, Kelly and I actually share the best VA that there is out there. So I'm sorry, everybody, you can't have him. He's ours
Can't
already.
have.
But he's I call him my social media manager. He manages all of my social media, and it's amazing. But yeah, so I get what you're saying about like even the name changes or calling it a VA is we call ours something different too. So we changed their
Well,
names
and
also.
two, VA in our world means veterans, so
Exactly.
I that's the other thing. I have had to correct that multiple times because someone will say, "VA? What do you mean VA?"
I had to do that
And
on the post
only in
that we
our
put.
world.
Yeah.
I know, only in our world would that even be relevant. So, yeah, I mean, I call mine my executive assistant because I mean, that's what he is. He's my personal executive assistant, and no, Nicole, you can't have him for any more time
I
than you already
only get
do.
him for 2 hours every day, and
I
at
know.
4:59, I look forward to that Slack message coming through, and he is like, "Good evening, Nicole, blah, blah," and we, like, chat and connect, and he does his thing, and then he sends me, like, what he's done, and it's like, I'm not working directly with him, but for, like, those 2 hours, he's just I just love him. Every time I see Kat in like our mastermind meetings or our Zoom calls, I'm like, it's a good thing Nell is not within physical reach of me because I would just hug him and kiss him all over his cute little face. And
Yeah.
he'd probably file a sexual harassment suit against
Yeah.
me. I just love him. He is so great.
Yeah, he's great.
That's why social media has been booming like every
Yes.
day. Oh my
Yes.
God.
He is on it.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
he is
I
on
was
it. He is on it. Well,
that's
yeah.
awesome.
Okay. So I'm just going to say this because I know that this is something that comes up and no one wants to say it. Full
Yep.
disclosure.
Yep. I
This
know
is
where
where
you're
the
going.
transparency comes from.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So, one reason why people don't want to use a virtual assistant from a different country is the concern about the language barrier and, the cultural difference. So, and I think rightfully so. You want someone who does sound like they're part of your group. I mean, no offense, Nicole, but like I don't want you answering the phones in Michigan for my Alabama folks
No, I
because
don't sound like you
you're not
guys. You don't sound like us. We would love if you guys answered our phone
right.
because it just sounds like
I
so
know.
homey and great. But no, I get it.
'Cause we're precious. Yeah. So, but, let's talk about that, Cat, because that's something that people are not gonna say out loud because, they are just worried about how that comes off, but I
Mhm.
think that when someone understands the Philippines, they understand the culture a little bit better, they can kind of grasp why this is such a good match for virtual assistants in the United States.
Yes. Well, first, let's look at there are 45 million immigrants in the US. 13.7% of US population are immigrants. They were born from, in another country.
Yep.
So in every in every successful company is an immigrant working there
Mhm.
that has an accent, probably, right?
Right.
Well, it's not a deterrent to what they can do within your agency. But to answer the point about the accent, Philippines really is the mode of instruction there. By the time you start school, pre-K, it's English. Well, it's not something that we learn in college. We grew up speaking English. In fact, if you tell me to speak Filipino now, I would. Most Filipinos speak a combination of Tagalog and English in the same sentence because we. It's hard for us to speak like our whole language, straight. So it's very innate for us to be, speaking in English. There's going to be accents here and there depending on what island or what part of the Philippines you grew up in. However, for the most part, most Filipinos, even those that don't go to college, actually speak English really well.
Yeah, and I think too, their grasp of the language, the flow of, articulation, all of that to me has not been an issue at all.
Mhm.
And I mean, for those who don't know, I am in rural Alabama. So
Rural Alabama.
rural
Rural.
Alabama. So if we're gonna have an issue, chances are it's gonna be in rural Alabama. No, but that hasn't been a problem because I mean the language barrier is just not there. I mean, we're not talking about someone who just learned English yesterday. That for one. The other thing that I have found really interesting though is that the in the Filipino culture, Western culture is very integrated into day to day. And so there's not a huge learning gap there between what a day looks like for us and what a day would look like in the Philippines. So talk a little bit about that so that we can get a clearer picture of what you grew up in the Philippines. So you have kind of that firsthand experience.
Yeah. So I don't think there's really a lot of difference. We have a lot of American or Western influence in us, in our history, Philippine history. And so, and a lot of uh, businesses are US based. There are a lot of businesses in the Philippines that are owned by Americans, or being one, or serving American, the American uh, industry. So,
Mhm.
yeah, American, yeah. So I think that we're just used to working with other cultures, especially American culture, and so we're very familiar. There's really not a lot of difference. What I would point out is that for the Philippine culture, what I found somewhat different is that the Filipinos, they want to please you. They're very
Yes,
eager.
very much.
They
Mhm.
they l wanna make sure that you're happy with their work. Sometimes, they're not, I wouldn't say desperate, but they it makes them really happy if they feel that that their work is appreciated because they really pour their heart and soul into it. That's a great thing that I noticed from Filipinos. The other thing is work ethic. Very, very strong work ethic. I've never had a problem with any of my VAs when it comes to being there. Like your time is 7, they're there at like 6:50.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Just a breath of fresh air sometimes.
Yes, and
So
I'll
yeah.
tell you, I have a few ladies on my team that work out in the field that are Filipino. If I could get 15 or 20 more of them, like they are right now, we're going through a horrible Michigan snowstorm. Those ladies, they were leaving and still getting to their shifts 10 minutes early. If they were going to be 5 minutes late, they're calling the office, they're letting us know, I'm going to be late to so and so. And so just following that procedure, you know, they're messaging us, I'm 5 minutes late, I'm going to stay 5 minutes over. And they are, they're like to their T, and they're so communicative. Our clients, they will call and say, I don't want anybody else but Juan coming back to my house. Don't send me anybody but View. So when these ladies are going into the home, we do have some clients that have been apprehensive, but after an hour, they're calling and they're going, don't send me anybody else. And we're like, okay,
I
well,
love that work ethic.
yeah, I mean, there is a lot to be taken from that work ethic that we don't see anymore. And I mean, they are probably some of the strongest advocates we have on our field team. They're wonderful to work with. Our clients love them. The quality of work that they put out is phenomenal. I mean, it doesn't even compare to some of the other staffing. It's been great. And the same thing with our virtual assistants that we've used have been wonderful. I mean, if I have to tell Nell, hey, maybe just adjust this a little bit, he's like, oh, yep, absolutely. And he's changing it and he's sending it
Oh,
back to
yeah,
me
he's on
within
it.
just a few minutes. And it's like, it is absolutely refreshing.
Yeah,
Right.
I
agreed.
think, I
Absolutely
think
agree.
one of the things though that, and we actually did an episode on this before, and it was a question that was asked in our home care ops nation Facebook group was about needing to have experience in the industry to be able to have a home care agency, and there's argument I think for every side of it. So when we talk about maybe some of the apprehension that agency owners have to using a virtual assistant, I think some of that might play into the mindset that they don't have home care experience or they don't know anything about the
Mhm.
home care industry. So, can you talk a little bit about how your VAs are trained specifically for home care and what it is that you guys are doing that kind of sets you apart when it comes to the virtual assistants and being ready to kind of jump into the home care industry?
Yeah, great question. So basically, home care is not a concept in the Philippines. There's no home care. And so I realized that when I was, started working with virtual assistants, and I really have to emphasize it's not a difficult term to learn. I mean, I it I made it a part of our training program. We have a home care 101 topic, and we talk about what home care is, and we do some like just ingrain that concept of a care provider, a caregiver working for a client 101 in their home. And so, like I always say, imagine like grandma, right? Grandma had a stroke, grandma needs help. And so they have to call an agency, and the agency sends a caregiver to take care of grandma and all the things that entail, what it entails to take care of grandma. That's, you know, their day to day activities, right? So if you paint a picture in their head, they'll understand what a home care agency does. So that was that's the very first thing that I do. And then I go on to do the concepts of what is the, what does a perfect fit caregiver looks like? How do we vet them? Scheduling, what are the things that we encounter on a day to day basis when it comes to scheduling? And admittedly, I always say that in full transparency, scheduling is the most stressful job within a home care agency,
Don't we know
especially
it?
especially when you have caregivers that call out all the time or no call, no show. So just prepping them that that's something that, that's just part of our industry, I guess, so that they're aware and they're not shocked when they start scheduling. So I patterned my training based on what we see on a daily day to day basis within our home care agency, and as well as the trainers that we have. And I've I have coaches as well, is that they have real life experience working in a home care agency. So our trainer for recruitment, for the recruiter, is actually my recruiter for my home care agency.
Mm.
And the scheduler is actually my scheduler. And so now even what I've done is that for some of our BAs that have started maybe early on and have been doing full-time scheduling, are very comfortable with scheduling now. They're coming on board, uh what do you call this, as a side job for them to become coaches for newer virtual assistants, so that they could share with them, their real life experience as a scheduler for a home care agency. And I think that is really important because we're not just using theoretical terms here, but really ingraining in them that, real life situations.
Yeah, that's
Awesome.
awesome.
And they're actually, I mean, like you're sitting down, you're training them in WellSky or ClearCare or like an actual training program. So I think in some instances, they might be even coming in with more scheduling training and knowledge than somebody we're hiring off the street that just might have
Absolutely.
had done it in the past in a previous job. Like I was a scheduler for a while. I worked for a hospice company. I had no training. I had no idea what I was doing. So knowing that they're coming in, they already know how to work these scheduling programs that we use. They have the concepts. The idea, I mean, it's to me, it's a no brainer. And anybody that doesn't get it, I just want to smack them. But whatever.
No, I mean, that's true, Nicole, because like here, let's say you post on Indeed that you're looking for a home care scheduler. The chances of you getting somebody who has experience working that platform or being a home care scheduler in the past is probably like 0.0001
Mhm.
because there's really not a lot of schedulers
No,
out
and
there.
if you do find somebody, it usually it I mean, at least in kind of our circle, we talk about having a team built agency. It's somebody that you're like bringing up from your team who might be familiar with the platform that you use, but really
Right.
not a clue on the actual principles of the scheduling component. And we all know what a daunting task it is and how
Yes.
schedulers have such a high burnout rate. That's why you can't find them because they're almost non-existent
Right.
anymore.
And
Yeah.
finding a new career.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just the truth. Okay. So let's talk best practices because, Nicole and I have now had a few different VAs we've gone through, and in speaking with some other home care owners, there's definitely a way to do this. And I think that for some people, it's that hump, right? It's that getting over the initial, how do I start? How does this even begin? How do I keep somebody busy? I hear that a lot. So let's talk best practices with a VA. What do you say, Kat? What should we be doing to best onboard, to get prepared? Let
Okay.
us hear all the good stuff.
Okay. So I probably would start with like the very beginning where you become part of the selection process, right? I think it's good for you or whoever's working with the VA to be part of the interview and selection process, and don't rush, because if you don't find your person in that first batch of interviews, then we can always schedule a second one because you have to be able to connect to them, and during that interview you set define, clear expectations. You communicate with them what's really important to you. Communication is important. If communication is important to you, right? Reliability. I really need you to be like not calling out and things like that because it's really important that if you're especially if you're a scheduler, I would say also like incorporate them in your team. They should definitely be part of your weekly team meeting and daily huddles. I've found that other some of our clients don't necessarily make them a part of the team. I feel like they're still, you know, just, thinking of them as the virtual and not like a real part of the team. So I really encourage them to incorporate them in the team. In that first 90 days working with the virtual assistant, I think having that one-on-one time with them is
Yeah.
also important because if you work with that, there's some VAs that are very shy and they won't speak up, especially in a group setting. They will not call out anybody or throw somebody under the bus. And so if you want to learn something from them and you want to really pull out something from them, then talking to them one on one is going to be, important. Training, especially in that uh, during the onboarding, is really important. And I always say this, like what you put out, right? What you put out there, what you give to your VA is what you're going to get. So if you only provide a little bit of time training them, you're not going to get the most out of your VA. However, if you train them really well and be patient and really spend time with them, then in the long run, you'll have more free time because you can delegate all of these things, not worry about it, and have the outcome that you're looking for. What else? So I think training is like my favorite. Recognition
Yeah, that's
and
great.
well.
Yes, recognition is huge because anybody who works for you needs to know that they're doing a good job. But, it's also, I think it's difficult when you're in a virtual place because you don't get to hear what the happenings around the office and that what you did actually, it was there was a good outcome or good responses from it. So,
Yeah. And then also, like, they want to be helpful to you. my VA just before we went into this podcast today, she sent me a message and said, "Do you have any more projects for me?" And I was like, "Oh, you're asking for projects? I have like 5, 6 things on my plate." So then I just started typing. Find out about ClickUp, set up a ClickUp account, set up about one password, like make sure that, like this and that. And so it was just like now I can check it off my list. I don't have to do it myself.
That's awesome. Okay, so Nicole, I'm gonna ask you now because you've worked with VAs. What what have you learned? Like, if you were to give other home care owners some advice on starting using a VA now that you've gone through it, what would your best advice be?
So I think two things. The first thing is there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. When I started working with VAs, I started with with a different company other than cats, and it
And she pulled me into that other company.
I
Just
didn't know
saying.
I didn't know what to expect. Again, home care is still really archaic. We, send smoke signals sometimes to get a message out. So there's a right way, there's a wrong way. The company I went with first was doing it all the ways they could do it wrong is how they were doing it. So it definitely, I was very like, this can't be this bad everywhere. So I would say definitely piece of advice is make sure that you're with a company that has a good reputation, and don't be afraid to ask, hey, can I talk to some of your other customers? I'd love
Yes.
to be able to talk to somebody who's currently utilizing your services, and be able to get feedback directly from current customers, because I think if you talk to a current customer or a former customer of the previous agency that I was working with and now working with Cat's company, you're going to get two very different responses. And the other thing that I would say is, like Kat said, what you get is what you're going to give, or what you give is what you're going to get in return from your VA. So the more time you spend educating and teaching and kind of nurturing that relationship with your VA, I mean, it's going to be a night and day difference in what you're getting. And we've done it wrong. We had one assistant with Cat's company, and I don't think we didn't know what we were doing. And
Yeah.
it was a lot of us. We didn't know. It was really, really great. And then we're like, we don't know what we're doing. But now that I've had the opportunity to kind of work directly one on one with Nell and kind of say, I need this to be successful, and kind of giving him everything. He just kind of anticipates, like, this is what I created without any real direction, just from previous conversations him and I have had. But without having those conversations, he wouldn't know like what is going on in this crazy brain of mine. But we've spent enough time talking and getting to know each other and talking about the business and understanding, because he's doing social media for both the day program and the assisted living. So helping him understand the difference, because he really had no clue in the difference in an assisted living and a
Right.
home care agency. Like, the concept just was foreign to him. And so once we spent some time talking about the differences, like, his social media content is just on point now because he understands it, because I took the time and he asked the right questions. So I think definitely, kind of what Kat said, you are going to get from your virtual assistant what you give. The more you give, the better they're going to get to know you. And they're just going to be able to, it's almost some days scary how much they can just anticipate what needs to be done, and they just do it. It's freaking amazing.
You got
Yeah,
it.
I agree.
He probably got a good training from Kelly.
Well, and that's the other thing. Like, I just kind of steal people's VAs. Like, I stole Kelly's, and then I stole a little bit of Kat's bookkeeping assistant for a little while. So yeah, you guys are doing great trainings. Keep it up. Let me know when other VAs that you're using have free time, because I'll take them.
Yeah.
That's
No,
funny.
but I think what you said, we have now been able to use 2 different companies, and so you get to kind of see the differences. I will say that, yes, Kat is a dear friend and respect the hell out of her, but you can also see her in Olivia in so many different ways.
Mhm.
The onboarding process is so
Oh my
thorough. It
gosh.
is it
Yeah.
is so process oriented. I mean, so for someone who, appreciates that, most of us as home care owners appreciate that kind of an onboarding because we have to do that with either our caregivers or our
Mhm.
clients, or that was probably like number 1 what impressed me when I started with Olivia. So, you'll get a feel as you interview people, as you interview companies, as you talk, and of course, we are pushing Olivia because, we're slightly biased, but I'm sure there are other great ones out there. Just why would you, like, reinvent the wheel if somebody's already doing it amazingly,
Yeah, but
right?
that
Um,
onboarding process that you have, Kat, is phenomenal.
I
Like,
mean, it is
uh,
stellar.
a checklist and the paperwork, like the whole like orientation that you fill out that before you ever even meet with somebody. And while I was filling that out, I was like, I need a VA to fill this out, but I'll figure it
I
out.
know. Anytime they send me an email, I'm like, "Man, I need a VA to respond to this email."
I know.
You know what's funny is that my VA created those checklists.
That's
So
hysterical.
Great.
it's just her
See,
work. It's
I
her
mean,
work.
I think that, you have an expectation and you have definitely instilled that. So your
Mhm.
influence is all over that company. I think that the other thing that I would tell owners, because I did this. So when I was bringing on my VA, I was going through a really weird place, and like I think I had gotten sick, but I still, you can give so many excuses to not start something, and I am that person. Like, I wanna do it perfectly, and I knew that this I could not do perfectly. So, I set the expectation up front, and I said, "You know what? Look, I know I need to have this full time because that is the way to ensure longevity, but just know I may not have full-time work for you. There are gonna be times where you may be slow, there are gonna be times where you may be, like, swamped. Until I can kinda get the feel for it, and then that takes the pressure off of me because it's just like when we have clients and they wanna keep a caregiver busy all the time, th that's not the point, right?
Mhm.
That's not the purpose of our services, and it's the same there. So, I was able to take some of that pressure off of myself, and then I've also just been really honest with my VA. So, he is my executive assistant, so he doesn't necessarily work for the business as a whole, but I've said to him, "Look, I will forget things. I need reminders. If you see something on my calendar or, you didn't get invited to something, ask. If there's a project coming up and I haven't mentioned it to you and you see it, like say something." And he's great about that. He'll first thing in the morning, "Hey, you have this on your calendar this afternoon. Do you need me to join?" And sometimes I'll be like, "Crap, totally forgot about that. Yes, I need you to be on there. Can you take notes?" So those kind of things are great. And then the fact that as you get to know the person, he takes a lot of, well, I can't even think of my words right now. What is it called when somebody does things without you having to ask?
Initiative
Proactive.
or
Thank you. All that. Yes. So he
all
has
that.
started to do that, all of that, because he knows that, A, I'm not OCD and I'm not going to be like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe that you did a task without me saying you could do it." But two, because like he knows what the ultimate goal is. And just because I haven't said, "Hey, can you push start on this?" He has really gotten to understand me. So I think that for a lot of owners, they just have to get in there and try it. Give themselves some time to get around it, to be okay with if it doesn't go perfectly. If you have to spend some time training, I'm not a great typer and texter, so I was like, "I'm gonna send you voice memos and Loom videos," and that's worked out great.
Last question from me, and then we have some fun rapid fire questions to go into with you, Kat, which is if I seem distracted, I was actually trying to find those and I cannot. So, Kelly, if you
That's
have
all the
them
time.
and want to put them in our private chat. But so in this, probably what seems like a really short and long time, all in one of having Olivia, you've probably had a lot of client success stories. But what is, when we talk about client success stories, what is one client success story that automatically, like, just comes to mind about a truly positive experience or how the VAs have helped transform a home care business? Tell us a little bit about your favorite one.
Okay, I have actually two favorite ones. One is Dennis, who
Yes.
is in California. So definitely they love their VA MAPE. In fact, in one of the summits, I think that was in December, we Jessica asked a question about like what have you accomplished in 2023 or something like that. And so he was going over, what they're doing in their agency. And then he casually mentioned that one of the best moves that they did was to hire a virtual assistant. They were very hesitant at first, but then it proved that, and then he said that our VA from Olivia is our best employee in the
Hmm.
company. I was like,
Awesome.
definitely, my heart was so happy to hear that. And then my second favorite is actually, I didn't ask for permission yet, so I'm not going to say her name, but a client in Virginia. And she was having like internal admin, like issues in the
Hmm.
office. It was a lot of toxicity, which is very common in home care. I feel
Okay.
some, toxic employees and things like that, to a point where when she mentioned that she was going to hire a virtual assistant, her team said, "You hire a virtual assistant, I'm quitting." And so
Really?
she felt like hostage
Wow.
that she couldn't make a decision for her own company. So it was, she was hesitant, but she knew that was the direction that she wanted to do. And so she did. She hired a virtual assistant from us. And that's that morning that she introduced the VA to the team. Two of her, the only two people in her company left,
Oh
both
my
both
gosh.
numbers. And
Wow.
so she called me back and she was like, "Yeah, they quit." But she said, "It's okay. We're going to go through this, blah, blah, blah." And then she hired another virtual assistant. And right now they're like thriving.
Good
They're
for
they're
her.
growing. They have a better team dynamics because now it's really drama free. And I think that's what we need. Or we're done with all the drama, right? We just
Yeah.
need to, what we need to.
Well, and it's hard too. I mean, I think one of the benefits of them being virtual is that they can't engage in that drama, on top of the just phenomenal work ethic that they have and the desire to kind of please and do quality work. They're not involved. And we all know that working with a bunch of women is so incredibly difficult, anyways. But then you throw them in this small, confined space together and say, hey, be here for 40 hours with each other in a high stress industry where it's ever changing and get along. And when you bring in the virtual assistant component, there's really not that. It's a they have their task based assignments. Those are getting knocked out. They're not able to participate in the drama. So I think that that's a piece in and of itself to utilize. And it's one that until now I really hadn't even thought about. But that's horrible for that agency owner that she had to go through that, and that like being held hostage by a team member just because they didn't wanna work with a VA. That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awful.
Yeah. It worked out real well though, so I'm happy for her.
So how many virtual
Yeah.
assistants are you currently are on your team now? Because 'Cause you've added a few recently, haven't you?
Yeah, we have about close to 40 virtual assistants that are currently
Holy
working
cow.
with agencies. Yeah. So I know that we ran out of schedulers. As of right now, we
Oh,
booked for the last schedulers.
that's
And I'm,
amazing, Kat.
That is amazing.
yes, and I'm looking to figure out, and that's my job, right? Because I let go of my $10 tasks per hour task. My job is to figure out how I could train more people. Like, how do I create a schedule or add more people? Like, the decisions that we have to do as owners of
Yeah,
Yeah.
companies to scale and grow the business. So, yeah, our next, I think our next batch of training ends, or they'll be available by the third week of January. So
that's
we're gonna have to wait.
amazing.
Wow.
And I would
Yeah.
That is
imagine,
amazing.
like, I know, like, you see all of the like virtual assistant, and you're seeing like $2 and $3 an hour, which again kind of comes back to like the you get what you pay for kind of thing. And do you find that do you get that in phone calls where people are like, well, why do you charge this much when I can get a VA for $2 or $3 on this other ad that I saw?
It's funny you asked that because we did have an exploration meeting with one that said that they had another company offered them for $3. And one thing I learned from Jessica and Clint is right fit client.
Yep.
Right,
Yes.
right fit client. I said I told my business developer, uh, and I said, he's not. That's not the right company for us. If they want to work with someone, an agency, it's not even a direct person, an
Hmm.
agency that charges $3. Go for it, and
That's
you know,
crazy.
yeah, yeah. That's
Well,
all I
and
can say.
I would imagine with those rates, it would probably be similar to what we deal with in home care, where when you're paying low end of the totem pole as far as wages, you have higher turnover. You don't retain your
Yeah. You're gonna get what
employees.
you paid for.
Exactly. I mean, I would imagine it's probably not much different. And again, probably one of the reasons why people are struggling or stressing about utilizing a virtual assistant because they're paying them, $2 to $3 an hour. Well, not even $2 to $3 an hour because there's got to be some recoupment for the business.
Right.
That's unfortunate. So,
Yeah.
one question that I have, and I know a lot of other agencies that are using your services, Kat, do you have plans to add after hours or on call virtual assistants?
Oh, goodness. I know. I am so struggling with that. And
Put her on the
business wise,
spot.
I'm
I know that wasn't
thinking,
on your question list. Sorry.
no, it's not. I've struggled with that. Part of me, I want to be a complete solution to home care agencies,
Hmm.
right? I know that's a struggle for most agencies. But then the business side of me thinks that I need to like focus on one thing and be good at it, like be really good at it before I venture
Hmm.
into a new program. So given that Olivia is still very new and we're still sort of perfecting our process and our systems, I think that that's something that I probably wouldn't do right now. I'm not closing my doors to it though. Maybe in the future, when the right time comes and we have the right infrastructure, then we may look into it because yeah, I absolutely want to be a one-stop solution for home care owners.
All right. So wait just a little bit longer, folks. She'll get it. She'll get there.
That's
It's
a good
coming.
answer though, because the last thing that we want is for a company to stretch themselves so thin
Right. Right.
that, then their base, offering is put in jeopardy.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And so that's so smart, Kat. I mean, one of the many reasons why we love you and
Hmm.
think
Well,
the world of you. So
we learned from our mentors,
Right.
Jessica and
that
Clint. Well, the other thing too, like the other day, I had a call and they said, "Can you do or can Olivia do websites for home care?" And I'm like, "I so want to, but it's not in my, it's not the
yeah,
time to do that right now." But
Hmm.
definitely because competition is not good.
yeah,
No.
yeah,
So it's in there, but not now. We'll scale it
yeah.
slow.
Awesome. All right. Did
All
you
right.
find the rapid fire question, Kelly?
Yes, but I got rid of some of yours. So
Okay.
buckle
Cool.
up.
All right.
All right. So, Kat, we have a segment where we ask just some rapid fire questions. And so you just are answering off the cuff, whatever comes to mind. What is the most unexpected thing in your personal routine that listeners might find surprising?
My personal routine. Probably that my working hours is starts after my kids start school and then it ends before bus pickup. So
I
Yeah.
love that
anyone
so much.
anyone who calls me after 3:30, just go into my voicemail. Sorry, I'll pick it up tomorrow.
When you
That's so
said that
awesome.
in our
Boundaries.
masterminds the one day, I was like, that's such a great idea. Why did I never think about doing that?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, what's the best advice someone has ever given you?
Best advice is gosh, there's so many best advice. Um I think it's that not being afraid to try new things and be a risk taker as long as it's a calculated risk. Because you never know what you're capable of unless you try. like
Right.
doing this in the business world never was part of my dream. But let me just try.
Okay, so what is that one song on your playlist that you have ready when you need to like a pick me up, you need some motivation, you need something to like really get you going?
It's Alicia Keys. What is that? This girl is on fire.
What
Yes,
is
I love that song.
choice? Yes,
My
good
7-year-old
song.
loves to sing that song. I should totally have him sing it for you.
What? I like this song when I'm feeling like I need some buildup of confidence, or when
Yes.
I get something big, like I sign up a 24/7, or like you hit something big and you're like, this girl is on fire. So it's just
All right. Last question. What is saving your life right now?
my virtual assistants.
Yeah.
They're saving my life. Honestly, like sometimes I feel like I'm so overwhelmed. And then I think about all the things that, okay, what do I have to do? But I've delegated most of them. I'm overwhelmed because I've delegated so much. And I'm trying to remember what I've delegated.
That's awesome. Kat is like the master delegator.
Yes, she is. She presented to us on delegation in our mastermind group, and we're like, yes, we're taking that piece of advice. We're taking that piece of advice. I think we all walked away with
Yeah.
things that we immediately delegated off of our plate.
That's
Yes.
awesome.
All right. So, Kat, if someone wanted to get in touch with you, wanted to learn more about Olivia, how can they do that?
Yeah, so you can visit our website at oliviapros.com. We're also on Facebook, Olivia Professional Solutions. Or you can send me an email directly, Kat, at oliviapros.com.
Perfect. Okay. And we'll make
Oh,
sure
and we
all
have
that
a
is
phone
in the
number.
show notes.
Sorry, we have a phone number.
Oh, yeah.
240. Yeah, it's 240-690-9880. That's our company number.
Perfect. Well, and we'll make sure
Awesome.
all of that is in the show notes for you guys so that you can easily get to it. Kat, it has been a pleasure having you with us today. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule.
And thank you for
Thank you
being our
so
first guest.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I can't wait to see the final product. And I wish you both the best. This is such an exciting endeavor for you for 2024. I'm sure everybody is excited as well. I've seen the promos on Facebook and it's so much fun. So we look forward to it.
Thank you,
Thank
Kat.
you,
And
Kat.
Thank you.
thanks for joining us on Home Care Hot Seats with Kelly and Nicole. We hope today's session has given you insight, inspiration, and a sense of community in this ever-evolving journey of home care ownership. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and share it with other fellow home care agents and professionals.
Have a topic you want us to discuss or a story to share? Reach out to us and join the conversation. You'll find the links and contact info you need in the show notes below. We'll see you next time, same place. Bye for now.